podcast, we have the amazing singer-songwriter Jamie McRoberts. She's an actor, dancer, and musician from Oakville, Ontario. You're currently in PEI right now, so how are you enjoying it down there?
I am. Well, it's pouring rain at the
Mhm.
moment, but I love it. I've been very busy. I've been working on a show that was created and co-written by Johnny Reed. So I'm here. Basically, I've been here since the middle of May, and I'm here until the end of September, and then I'm in Cape Breton for 2 weeks as well with the show.
I love Cape Breton. I was there, and it's amazing. I knew friends in Halifax. They're living in Moncton now, and Peggy's Cove was amazing. Have you been
Oh,
there
yeah.
yet?
I've been to Peggy's Cove. I have not been to Cape Breton, though.
You should go to Cape Breton. There's actually in Mabou. There's a little pub that was owned by Heather Rankin and her family. Jamie is a classically trained pianist and vocalist, having completed her grade 8. Wow.
And I actually completed my grade 10 piano. So my grade 8 was in vocals, and then my grade 10 was for the piano.
Right, the Royal Conservatory. That's great. And you've been training as an active performer since the age of 5. And can you give us a little bit of backstory of who Jamie McRoberts is?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Oakville, Ontario, but I spent most of my time, in Hamilton, in Toronto, in Burlington, taking piano lessons, voice lessons, dance lessons. I performed in a lot of community theater growing up. I played a lot of sports. I was very, very busy all the time. I went to an art school for high school. I went to Cawthra Park. I wanted to be a dance major because I felt like it was the weakest of all of my skill sets. And I guess from a young age, I was always on this trajectory to being a performer, whether it was a musician, a singer, an actor, whatever it was, that's what I wanted to do. So I went to an art school for high school. When I came out of there, I went to George Brown, and from there, I've been acting, performing, working as a professional since I was 20 years old, and recently have decided to try my hand at songwriting. I had written a few things when I was much younger, but they were just soundscapes for plays and stuff like that. I hadn't done much in terms of lyrics or vocal stuff. But that was a pandemic game time decision where I went, okay, my industry has, shut down, and I don't know when we're going to be back. We've locked down, opened up, lockdown, open up. So my husband suggested songwriting as another way to kind of feed that artistic beast that is within.
So your husband suggested that you take up songwriting. That's really interesting. I love that.
Yeah, and he's a big music enthusiast himself.
Yeah. So I noticed that you have that new single, Just Like I Remember. How did that come to be? What is your songwriting process?
Yeah, so Just Like I Remember is one of many. I just released a full album called Bring Me Your A Game. Just Like Remember was the first single. I co-wrote with Ross Vanelli. He is, one of the industry's heavy hitters, Juno award-winning, Grammy-nominated, platinum gold record, producer, songwriter, arranger extraordinaire. And we got together in California, probably been down to LA about 4 or 5 times. The intention, I wanted to just do 3-ish songs just to try my hand at it, see what the process was. It was more like an exploratory thing to begin with, because I had never tried it, never done it, had no idea, how that would feel. And then I kind of got the itch for it and the bug for it, and I loved it. I loved writing, I loved recording, I loved editing, I loved the whole entire process. I learned so much so quickly, and it kind of felt like this missing piece to the puzzle that is the artist of Jamie. And so Ross and I basically, he had prepared a bunch of different tracks that he had created. I'd go, yeah, you know, this one speaks to me, or oh my gosh, that one's amazing. There's so much cool stuff going on in there, or I love this bit. You know, let's see what this brings us. And then we would talk ideas. So sometimes he would have this idea for a hook, like a lyrical hook, or he would say, you know, this is what I'm thinking for this one. How does that relate to you and your life, or stuff like that? And Just Like I Remember was a hook that he had spoken about, the idea of coming back to the world after the pandemic. And it sparked something very visceral in me, because as we were sitting down to write that one, we had just come out of one of our lockdowns, one of. Do I know how to do this anymore? Is this still for me? And then feeling at home again, and feeling like I can breathe, and feeling like all this heavy matter had lifted off of my shoulders. And I feel like everybody at some point during the pandemic had that moment when we started to get back to it, where, you know, you felt the weight lift, and you went, okay, you know, we're getting out of the dark, we're headed back into the light, we're heading back to the world that we knew, or a different version of it. And we felt like that was a very universal feeling, experience, and message, essentially.
So now you have your debut album, Bring Me Your A Game.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that one.
It's tough.
Yeah. Did it take you a long time to put that together, or was it just like your songwriting process? Do you lyrics and then write the music around it, or do you just like to, you just suddenly in the morning you wake up, say, and then you have this tune in your head, and then you're writing the lyrics? Or is it like some other musician I heard, they take a title and then they write the song around it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ross had his way in on his end with tracks and stuff like that. Um, for me, I work like an actor. So storytelling is what I do. So when I'm hearing a certain groove in the bass line, or I'm hearing a certain, you know, chorus motif or whatever, it definitely, it sparks feelings and emotions in me. And I go, okay, what is this journey? A lot of the songs, most of the songs actually are, you know, based from my truth, my life, my experiences. But there are also some that we will hook, and I'd go, oh my gosh, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of this person that I once knew that, you know, always had a new thing that they wanted to enjoy, and always, you know, hooked into one thing for 2 weeks, and then they'd be on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And I'd go, you know, what are you running from? And that was actually one of the songs, What Are You Looking For? You know, when you're the kind of person that's chasing the next high, what is it that you're looking for? What are you running from? What are you chasing? What are you? So it for me, I work like an actor. I like to create stories. I like to create a journey. I like to create an arc in a song. I don't like to start in the same place and end in the same place.
But I reading that you crafted all this in an arduous year and a half, and
Yeah.
that the album embodies the essence of patience and artistic dedication. Now I don't know if he's related to Gino Vanelli. Are they related?
Yes, they're brothers. Yeah, yeah, yep. So very related. Yeah, Ross has been at it since he was, you know, in his late teens, working with both of his brothers, Joe and Gino. You know, creating, writing, producing. I Just Want to Stop was actually that was Ross's song that he created at a very young age. It's honestly mind blowing, the career that this person has had for so long. So we worked together. Like, I would fly out to his area in LA, and I would be there for 6 days, or I'd be there for 2 weeks, or I'd be there for, you know, I don't think we did anything less than 6 days, but we were in the studio every day, all day. We worked really hard, and it was a lot of hard work, a lot of phone calls back and forth too when I was back home and we were sorting things out or planning the next visit. Or, you know, he'd send me a track and say, what do you think about this? And I'd say, oh, I love it. Or can we amp this up? Or can this be adjusted? but it was truly one of the best experiences. And I fortunately, I'm in love with it. I don't want to stop. I want to keep going for as long as I can. I want to keep creating stories and having a voice and having, a presence in the music world.
So with your guitar playing, is it just do you know how to play the bass guitar?
But I actually was in a show last year where we were playing instruments. So I played guitar, I played drums, I played piano, and then they didn't have a bass player, so they were like, Jamie, would you play bass? And I went, well, I've
Wow.
never done it, but I'll give it a go. And I actually fell in love with it. I felt pretty badass as a woman in heels with a bass guitar strapped to my body. And I really enjoyed it. So now I fiddle around with bass. I would never call myself a bass player, but I can do, yeah.
Yeah. Um, that is amazing. You got to get your name out there. You got to be hardworking. You got to be known as a Canadian pop musician, I guess you want, and all these instruments.
Generally, take to new things pretty quickly. I adapt pretty quickly, which I think has a lot to do with my theater training, because you are constantly changing things on the fly. I mean, the show that we did with Johnny Reed, we were adjusting things up until opening, a few hours before, and you kind of have to take that information, input it right away, and apply it. And that's kind of what I did. And I think that's also why our time in the studio went so well and was so much fun, because we were able to play a lot. We were able to adjust things. I was able to, take notes on the fly from Ross to go, okay, let's try it this way. And it didn't eat up a lot of time. We didn't have to, work at it in that way. So we had a lot of time to explore and try different things.
Yeah, but that would be interesting. But I'm also wondering, like, which instrument do you think was the most difficult to play?
Well, I wasn't playing on the album. Those were tracks and gigging musicians. So we had a man named Dalton come in and do a bunch of work. He also did my backup vocals as well. He recorded quite a few instruments on the album, actually. But when I'm performing live, obviously I want to do a bunch of key stuff. I would like to do. There's two or three songs on the album that feature the keys. And I have performed a few of them already just by myself on keyboard, which I'm really excited about as a live performer. It's definitely an adrenaline high to chase performing in front of people.
That's amazing. Now let me see if you can remember your own lyrics. It was just like I remembered.
Stepping out and I can finally breathe.
It was just like I remembered.
Back to where we wanna be.
Like I remembered. Yes. Excellent. Love it. Love it. The song's inspiration, it was inspired by your experiences living through the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what was the pandemic like for you?
It was hard. It was hard for many reasons. I mean, the arts are the first to go and the last to come back. So we were deemed non-essential and seeing too that all people were turning to the arts to get through their days. People were turning to music, people were turning to TV, people were turning to movies. There were live performances online that people were tuning into. So as an artist, to be deemed non-essential, yet to also be kind of the integral glue that kept a lot of people sane during that time, it was difficult. And then I also, my family life changed a bit during the pandemic. So I have a stepdaughter who came to live with us full time.
Wow.
Yeah, full time. So I kind of went from being a performing artist to not, and then also becoming a full-time parent. And it all happened very, very quickly. I was actually in Australia right before lockdown. So on my way over, they were asking if we had flown to China, and on the way back. So I went from, being an international artist, performing artist, to coming home and sitting on my couch and watching too much Netflix.
Oh yeah.
So it was very polarizing, you know, and it was like that for a really long time, a really long time. So it, you know, the mental health obviously suffered, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. Well, it wasn't easy for anybody in any shape or form. Everybody's lives were changed. It was, you know, actually a globally felt vibration, more so sometimes than you know, certain war conflicts and stuff like that. Like every single person was deeply affected by this pandemic. So it was rough. And then my husband obviously was watching me. Or what else can we do to feed that artistic part of her? Because at the end of the day, it's my job, but it's also who I am. So that's when he suggested songwriting, and we reached out to Ross, and yeah, the rest is history. Then we made an
Yeah.
album.
Yeah. And the final verse is, as you sing, troubled waters crossed, the
Yeah.
things lost during the pandemic. This is when you managed to find again. Your vocals are particularly impressive, as we know
Thank you.
that.
Thanks.
As they soar right through before the chorus comes in again. And that's what you need an experience like pandemic, whatever, because I know the pandemic really affected a lot of opera singers and they couldn't really perform because of that.
Yeah.
And people watching too much TV. And I know a few who started a podcast like myself, and the rest is history. Pandemic was good for some things.
So I think, I mean, sometimes you do need something to shift your perspective on life, and shift your perspective on what it is you want out of life, and what, you know, what you need. I also think that there was a lot of simplicity that came into our lives, which is actually really lovely. You know, people getting back outside and going for walks, people, you know, talking on the phone to their loved ones. You know, I think it was a time where everybody was striving for some kind of connection. Yet we've been in a society where we are actively shutting off our connectivity with each other through these screens and these things that we're doing. You know, it's nice because it created a way to, I think it shifted a lot of things for a lot of people, and how they're functioning now in life.
I know. Can you tell us about your time where you were in Rock of Ages at the Stage West in Calgary and All Shook Up at Stage West Mississauga? By the way, it closed down a few years ago, and I'm pretty upset about that. But
Yeah.
I remember going in there and you would have like a dinner theater, and then you would watch. Oh, it was great. And then I don't know why they shut it down. It was great. It was an awesome place to go.
Yeah, it's, well, the like the hotel is still there, and actually the theater hasn't been touched. I had a friend who'd been in there recently, so it's basically, the theater still exists in there. It's just like a storage area. And then I was in Calgary in 2017, both doing, you know, rock jukebox musicals. So Rock of Ages obviously is similar to the movie that people know and love. All these 80s hair bands. I got to play a hippie protester that sang "Hit Me with Your Best Shot." It's the final countdown. You know, I got to wail some notes, and we had a killer band too playing for us. And then All Shook Up was a Elvis Presley based jukebox musical with all of his tunes, which when I first read the script, I went, oh boy, what am I getting myself into? But on its feet, actually, it was one of my favorite experiences. And the arrangements that were done for this show specifically were stunning. I mean, I've always loved Elvis. Yeah, you know, I went to Graceland as a kid with my parents.
Yeah. So you like to be an actress. You like to do this on stage musical there.
Yeah.
And now you're currently in Maggie, which is a new Canadian musical created and co-written by Johnny Reid, the country singer. I can't believe it. What a great, what a country singer, Johnny Reid and Matt Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the arrangements were done by Bob Foster, who is also one of our great musicians in Canada.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's excellent.
He was involved in Come From Away, basically from the ground up as well. But it's been a very cool experience. The music is phenomenal. obviously it was created by Johnny. So it's not your typical musical theater sound, which I really enjoy. I actually found it's interesting because so it's kind of always been the route that I've been headed down. And it's been cool to watch them work as well because it's a new musical, we've been changing things, like I said, up until opening night. So, you know, seeing Johnny run down from the back of the house and go whisper in Bob's ear about some, you know, voicing of an instrument that he wants to hear more of this or more of that. And then, you know, seeing Matt change, you know, script lines or lyrical things on the fly has been a really interesting process to watch. Just brilliant minds doing brilliant things.
So so when you're on stage, how do you deal with anxiety? Do you do like vocal exercises? Do you run on the spot?
I mean, I warm up just, you know, to be safe because but the stage and performing live and even in the studio actually seems to be the place I feel most grounded and most at home. I get a little bit of nerves, but I actually like that because it means that I still care. I think if I ever went on and didn't have that, then I'd go, you know, what am I doing here? You know, but I don't tend to get anxiety so much as that nervous excitement that I'm about to go perform on stage in front of an audience. Anything could happen. The audience also could be any kind of person. So, you know, you get audiences that are with you 100%, super vocal. And then you get audiences that don't seem like they're listening at all because you can't hear them, or they're super quiet, or they're silent, or they're shy. Yet at the end, they're on their feet immediately. I love that energy of reading the energy of a room. I would never jump out of a plane. I would never do any of those things. But there is a certain adrenaline high that I think is attractive to a lot of performers and a lot of musicians and artists, because there's nothing like standing out in front of people and feeling very vulnerable, but also excited by it.
And then once you're out on the stage and you start singing, then you feel more comfortable, more confident.
Oh yeah. It's where I'm happiest.
Yeah, definitely got to be happy, right?
Yeah.
So what strengths do you have that you believe make you a great musician?
Oh, well, it's funny because I've had this conversation with my husband where he goes, "Oh, you have this gift." And I don't believe that I was gifted musicianship because I'm the only person in my family that is a musician, and I took to it very quickly, and I enjoyed it, and I work very hard at the things that I do, and I have been working very hard at it for a very long time. So I'd say my work ethic is one of my best strengths, not just as a musician, but as just a human person. And I'd say another strength that I have is my ability to listen. I'm a good listener. I actively listen, and I take what is being said to me or what I'm hearing, and I assess it very quickly, and then I apply it very quickly. So I constantly feel like I have this hamster wheel going in my head that's taking in information and then spitting it back out either the same way or a different way. I used to not have confidence that I was in fact a musician because, you know, growing up in the Royal Conservatory of Music, a lot of the time your worth as a musician is based on somebody else's opinion and somebody else's marking system or somebody else's grading system. But with that stuff, you're doing really great mimicry. You know, you're taking a piece that's already existed and you're reproducing it, and you're reproducing it the exact way they want you to reproduce it. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that is a skill in and of itself, but it did mess with my psyche on my ability to confidently say that I am a musician. It has taken a long time, and I actually would say that this process with Ross has solidified my confidence as a musician. I am now able to say, yeah, I am a musician. I'm a singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm a pianist. I've got those other instruments that I can play should somebody need me to. But it has taken a long time to get there. And I think, and literally 20 musicians came in, all from different households. They brought their violins, they brought their accordions, they brought their drums, they brought their whistles, they brought, like, there was a bagpiper, and they just sit around a table and they jam. And I go, man, I wish, like, how cool is that? And what a great opportunity to learn and hone your skill set. And that wasn't the route that I went through. I went through a different route. So, I think everybody gets to where they need to be eventually, but I often wish that my training and my skills, my skill set was created through a more lenient and organic path, I guess, if that makes sense.
What makes you so passionate about music?
It's always been in my life. And it's funny because I don't know, it's my way of life. It's always been there. I was the kid strapped to the bar table with my parents in a smoky bar on a Friday night listening to a blues band. My first time I performed live vocally, I was singing Kenny Rogers' The Gambler with our
Yeah.
local band in Burlington at Jake's. It used to be Jake's Boathouse.
Yes.
I was singing with
Familiar with it. Yep.
Danny B and
Yep.
Mark Haynes and the Zippers.
Yep. I remember those days.
Yeah. So, like, it's always been part of my life, and I can't say I wouldn't want it any other way, because I don't think there is any other way. I just don't.
That's true.
People turn to music for everything in life. They turn to music to have a good day. They turn to music when they're feeling upset. They turn to music when somebody's passed away. They turn to music to celebrate. Music has always been, and that community that has been created, all of these strangers, complete strangers, coming together and celebrating and enjoying something communally, it's beautiful. It's just, I think it's, I don't trust anybody who says they don't like music.
I remember Jake's Boathouse. I know exactly where it is, and used to go there. I think I went there a few times. It was a great bar, but
yeah,
I'm not really much into bars anymore.
Well, it's not quite the same anymore either. I mean, I think it's funny because whenever I talk about that place, or most of the places that I went, I remember and I was really young, but I remember as a kid coming home after, and my parents and I would go into the laundry room and we'd strip off our outer layer because it was all smoky and disgusting smelling. Music is also, it's ritual. It's something that we do and is part of our ritual, which I think everybody has rituals, and everybody has their habits and their things that they do. And music has always been that for me.
And also, like, in the music you play, and your own songs that you write, and songs you get out there. And who would be your ideal musician to collaborate with, and why?
Oh my gosh. That's huge. I'm very intrigued by strong women now, because I've recently found, again, through this process and through Ross's support, that I've come into my own as a strong woman. And I would love to create stories that support that, and what that looks like. I think Alanis Morissette is a very cool
Yes.
talent. I think she's an insane talent. And
She is.
listened to her growing up with my sister. Knew the songs, but I recently dove further into that when she did the Broadway show Jagged Little Pill. So she was very actively part of that process, creating the story, creating the arrangements, and the arrangements, again, are so stunning. It's these songs that we all know, we've all heard. She and her team have come up with. Again, I like songs that can speak to different experiences. One song can mean something to so many different people and in so many different ways. Another one who I think would be awesome to work with would be Ben Folds.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's going high. Ben Folds.
Yeah.
Great music.
As an actor, I think, and I've said this to my husband, I've often, toyed with the idea of being like, oh, I want to create a Ben Folds musical, because I think his songs are monologues, and when I each one of his songs tells a distinctly different story and a very clear story. And I think that they are actable songs. Like when I put on my actor hat versus my musician hat, they're actable songs. And then you hear his into like rock music and stuff like that. The piano player never seems cool. Like it's like the keys person. You want to be the drummer. You want to be the guitarist or the bass
Yeah.
player. Nobody's ever like, oh, I want to be the keyboard player. But with somebody like Ben
That's
Folds,
true.
he's made his career on it, and he's fantastic. And I've seen him perform a few times, and I'm just blown away by his brain, his intellect.
Have you ever met him?
I did one of his like VIP master classes. He was very cool. I was doing a panto at the time, and we had a clean version and a naughty version. So he and I actually, upon meeting, went back and forth with a few naughty jokes, which was funny because I went, okay, you're my kind of person. The fact that they're able to just chat and come back down to earth, I think, is really important.
I'd love to actually, because I'm a tenor. I love to work with Josh Groban, like stand on stage and sing with him, or
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say Susan Boyle because she's got quite a voice on her as well. Yeah.
I mean, you could ask me, and I think my answer would change any given day. I think the amount of sheer talent and creativity that's out there, if I got to work with anybody, it would be exciting, because I think there's something to be gained and learned from everybody's process and everybody's brain and everybody's experiences. So yeah, any given day you could ask me and I'd probably have a different answer.
Of course. So what about Alanis Morissette? Would you like to work with her too?
Oh, of course. I'd love to work with her. Her vocals are incredible. And what is actually astonishing to me, if you look back over time and stuff like that, her voice, the way she has always sung, you wouldn't think that she should still be singing or still be able to sing at this point in time. And her voice, she obviously has such a good grasp on what her instrument is and how to use her instrument. She sounds incredible still, if not better, in my mind, personally. Like, I just think her vocals are so unique, so interesting, and obviously I think she's special in that way. And I also think her journey has been very interesting, because she flipped the switch on how she wanted to present herself and what she wanted to present as well, and at quite a young age, which I think is really ballsy, and that makes for an interesting person to me.
I think she's got quite a unique voice. Her and Adele.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind Billie Eilish, and I like her brother Phineas O'Donnell.
Yeah.
He's got some pretty good stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that your husband actually is there to, push you towards songwriting and wants you to get out there and get your name out there. And are you familiar with Reba McEntire? She's one of my favorites too. She's got some really good music, really inspirational as well.
Yeah.
So when you're performing and you're standing there and your audience looks tired or bored during your performance, what do you do to enlighten and ignite the audience again?
It's all, and this is going to sound totally hippy dippy, but it's energy. It's energy. Give what I have to offer them. I give every last ounce of my energy, of my being, to hopefully then amp them up, and then they'll give it back to me. I honestly can say there have been very few times that I have gone on stage and performed in front of an audience and felt like I've been, I'm slugging up this hill, or this has been so brutal, or I'm exhausted because they're giving me nothing. There are audiences where you go, okay, they're quiet, but they're listening. But I think as a performer, you always have to be aware that you're performing for somebody. there's always an audience. Even if you're recording, in a studio, there will always be an audience at the other end receiving the information, the music, the artistry, the performance that you are giving. And I don't think you necessarily have to cater there to support a friend because their friend wants them there or whatnot. But you just always have to give 100%. Even when you're at 90%, you're giving that 90% like it's 100%. You give what you have to offer because that's your job, and that's why you do what you do. And I think remembering too that as a performer, you make memories for people. You can change people's lives. You can change people's emotions. You can support them from your performance and what you're giving them. I think especially when it comes to young people, live performance is so important. Corner and seeing a kid stop and go, hey, I want to watch this, or mom, can I put $1 in that hat, or can I, and you've created this little spark for this kid who may go, I want to go home and learn that song, or one day I'd like to be up on that stage performing, or this person broke up with me and broke my heart, this is the song I'm going to listen to heal my heart. And just remembering that there are other people at the other end of your performance that are receiving a message, or receiving your energy, or receiving your positivity, or whatever that is.
So do you get recognized places like, for instance, you probably get recognized in Burlington and places like that, but do you ever get recognized? How about in PEI? Have you been recognized yet, or people know who you are?
In PEI, it's very different because it's very small. I think that's also just, it's an East Coast thing. Like I said, there are kitchen parties where musicians show up to the pub and they just jam. We get recognition from the performances that we do on stage because we are at the forefront of basically tourism in Charlottetown. The cruise ships come in, they go to see the show. The restaurants have people that come for dinner, then they go to see the show. There's not always a ton of other things other than live performance to do in Charlottetown because it's such a small place. So you bump into people a lot. You cannot go out to do any kind of errands without running into at least one person
Yeah, true.
And it's cool. I like to have a little bit of what's the word? Anonymity to myself. But I haven't been totally spotted or recognized yet. I'm sure it will start to happen as the season grows longer here as well. We get people, if we're talking about the show or we're talking about a performance, we'll have somebody, say, oh, I saw that, it was really great. Or if we've gone out after the show for, some food or whatever, we'll bump into audience members that go, oh my gosh, you were this person and you did this, 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 and this, which is neat because it's impactful for those people.
Do you get your old high school mates from Cothra reaching out to you and say, hey, I saw that video. Hey, you're famous now. Let's go for dinner.
I haven't, because
No?
honestly, but I think probably because a lot of the year that I was in, they're all their lives and they're out there doing it. I've got friends who are on Broadway. I've got friends who are in the Stratford Festival. I've got friends who are, performing musicians internationally. It's a small community too. It seems like it's big, but it's not. It's a very small community, and you run into each other or mutual friends a lot and chat and say, oh, how's this person doing? Oh, he's performing in Amsterdam. You're like, okay, great,
Nice.
cool, wonderful.
Did you meet your husband in Cothra? In Cothra, or was he?
No, he's actually, we call him a muggle. He's a non-artist person. He is an artist in his own right. He's an entrepreneur actually, and has created his own business from the ground up. Basically started when he was 17, 18 years old. He understands the artistic mind and the hunger because it's the same for him in his creativity and what he does. He truly is an artist in the world that he's living in. And as an entrepreneur, he understands what it is to create your own work and to have a dream and a goal and chase it, you know? So he's been super
Yeah.
supportive, and I've learned a lot from him in that world as well.
I'm so glad about that. Does he like your music?
Yeah, he loves my music. He sometimes annoys the kids because he's playing it nonstop, and they'll get home in the car and be like, "Oh, guess what Dad was playing in the car again."
Playing your music, Mom.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what would you do if you made a mistake during a performance?
You just keep going. You hope that the audience doesn't know, you know? I think if I was, if it's a big mistake, you try to sort it on the fly. If it was a small mistake, you pretend like it never happened. You try not to go beat red, and you just keep on trucking on. At the end of the day, we're human, and there is such thing as human error. There's human error in performance. There's human error in sports. There's human error at the bank. There's human error at the hospital. There's human error, and we have to be forgiving of ourselves and others for being human. And sometimes actually the most beautiful moments and interesting moments come out of somebody being human.
So what would you prefer to do? Just play music on stage, or would you rather be part of a musical like Maggie, for instance? What do you prefer to go towards?
Well, obviously, my entire career has always been musical theater, but I'm having more agency over the work that I am producing and putting out there. So this is hopefully a step in that direction, and I'm looking forward to starting to perform my own music live, and sharing who I am, not the characters that I'm playing or not somebody else's words, but my own words, because I think I've got important things to say. And I wouldn't have always felt that way, but as I'm getting older and I'm learning things and I'm having different experiences, I think I've got important things to say, and I want to say them, and I don't want somebody else to write them for me. I want to say them myself.
What is the one message you will give to your fans?
Give to my fans, to keep going. But getting up every day sometimes is hard, but we keep going. One of my songs, Having One of Those Days, honestly, it's okay to say that today's not my day. It's okay to say that you stumbled. It's okay to say, that this doesn't make you happy, and to find what does make you happy. I think sometimes we can get so paralyzed by the idea of not knowing what we want to do by a certain age. I mean, here I am pivoting in my career, and I'm in my early 30s. And there's this pressure to know what you want to do right out of high school or even before that, and what's going to make you happy. But I think just keep your eyes ahead, keep going. There are going to be different turns in every path. Take them. They're probably really interesting. If it scares you, it's probably worth doing. Yeah, just keep going. Things are okay.
So one of your fans comes up to you, or somebody on the street, or whoever is watching your shows comes up to you and said, Miss McRoberts or Jamie, I want to do what you do. What do I need to do to be on stage and perform like you?
Yeah. Train, hone your skill set. Now I came from a family in the sense that I was very privileged, and I had access to lessons and finances that were able to get me in the door for my various lessons. But the world is in such a way now that we have access to so many things for free because of the internet, because of YouTube, because of social media. So if that's what you want, tell you that you're not meant for it, or you're not meant for this, or you should go this way. But I think keeping yourself trained and keeping yourself fresh and constantly taking in new knowledge and new input, I think is important for not just as a performer, but just in life in general. I think there are a lot of people that they get to a certain point in their career and they go, well, I've made it. And then they stop training and they stop taking in new knowledge and they stop learning. And I think I don't want to function like that. And I don't think the greatest performers do function like that. I think the greatest performers and musicians and artists and, you know, people in any kind of field are the ones that are still hungry for knowledge and keep wanting to train and hone their skill set. And it's work, right? They say, what, 10,000 time is time well spent. And that time is not just time for your skill. It's also for your mental health. It's for your, you know, brain. It's for your soul. So work hard, just work hard. Working hard is not, it's not that difficult, right? There are a lot of people that might not have you know, the God-given talents or skill or weren't born into it or whatever, but there's a lot that you can accomplish if you work hard at it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we really appreciate you being on our podcast and allowing us to talk to you. So gentle and gracious for your time. But we really appreciate talking to you, and I hope that you get home safely from PI and enjoy PI, because I love Charlottetown. I've been there so many times, and it's just beautiful. You should take a trip to Moncton, New Brunswick, and take a trip just around to the just see the lake there, and it was really beautiful.
Canada has some of the most gorgeous landscape and some of the most varying landscape, and I encourage everybody to explore as much of it as you can.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
So we're going to end the stream, and we really appreciate the interview. Really appreciate talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, everyone. Jamie McRoberts out.
Like 1,000 years inside this room, couldn't see the sun behind the moon. I wasn't moving on, just holding on for the dark to subside, when suddenly the earth came alive. It was just like I remembered, stepping out and I could finally breathe. It was just like I remembered, back to where we wanna be, like I remembered. I feel the wind blowing through my hair while I'm driving free without a care. Got nowhere to be, no place to go, but it sure feels damn good to be making my way out.